Alright guys, before we get started with the main part of this video, you'll understand why I'm doing this specific sponsored video before we get into it. It's because we have a need for wireless internet inside of our Vanleigh Beacon fifth wheel. So, the folks over at Nomad Internet were kind enough to send me one of their hotspots just for evaluation. They actually reached out to me a while back and I told them, you know, we're going to be getting a couple fifth wheels and it would be really cool to see how your product works in, you know, a realistic real world environment. I know they work with a lot of other YouTube creators as well. Some of the really nice perks of their product is the fact that it is unlimited 4G LTE. You're not going to sign a contract. There's no data limits, no credit checks, no throttling, and you have 14 days to try it out. The specific modem that they sent me has the capability of working across all major network providers for cellular data services. So the good thing is, you know, depending on where you travel, where you go, they likely have the right piece of equipment for you. And again, unlimited 4G, no throttling, that's pretty awesome. And their plans are pretty affordable. Definitely recommend you guys check them out. Their website's nomadinternet.com. I'll put a link in the description of this video if it's something you're interested in. This is actually really relevant to RVs because I think most people that go out traveling want to know what's going to be the best internet provider for them without having to always rely on Wi-Fi, especially if you're in a boondocking scenario. Again, because they work with all major wireless carriers, they're likely to have a plan in an area that supports where you plan on going. But it's always worth giving them a call, talking to them, and finding out specifically what they think about where you might travel, what your travel plans are, and what the best solution might be for you. I know they have different types of devices. This is going to be one of their wireless hotspots. This is a battery in it as well, so if I unplug it, it'll operate on battery, as well as, you know, when it's plugged in, it can work off my AC power. Very cool solution, something you can carry around with you. You can bring it inside of your truck, your tow vehicle, your towed, you can bring it in your RV. Just gives you a lot of flexibility. So check them out. The link to Nomad Internet is going to be in the description of this video. Alright guys, so I found the first minor problem. It's not a big problem at all, but it deals with the TV, not the televator system. But this is a problem that likely would have been caught by the dealership had this gone to a dealership before it came to me. And this is one of the reasons why sometimes dealerships have to do these things. So if you look behind the TV, I don't know if you can see it, let me get some light on. You'll see that the HDMI cables, I don't know if they didn't have enough slack or if they were just too tight. They look like they have enough slack if you put them around, but they obviously got caught on something when this was going up and down. I'm surprised it didn't shear off the cable here, even though that feels a little loose, but you can actually see where it bent all of the RCA cables as well and broke the tip off of that one. And again, obviously got caught on something. I imagine it's this little cross brace right here. I don't know if you can see that. When it went down and it pulled up on it, actually I'm pretty sure that's probably what happened. Well, in the process, again, it kind of sheared off the ends of the HDMI cables. It doesn't look like it damaged the TV at all, so that's kind of a testament to the quality of an LG TV. But they might need to think of a different way to route this right here, or make them long enough that they can route them around the bottom and kind of snake them up this way instead of behind the TV right there. But that's an easy fix. We're just going to swap the cables out with some new cables, and that should fix the problem. But again, this is something that typically a dealership might catch when the unit arrives before it gets sold to you. And if they don't, you can always take it to the dealership to get fixed. So I'm going to call the folks at Vanleigh. They have been absolutely phenomenal in terms of saying, if you find anything wrong, let us know and we'll take care of it. And I think that's the key point behind this. This is a beautifully crafted RV, but this is just one of those areas that can happen. You know, this isn't something that I think is a major issue. This is something that could happen in your own home if you put something similar in and it gets caught. I know that I've done things similar to that, but just wanted to let you know the first little issue that I found with it is the fact that those cables got damaged. So I've already got an email into the folks at Vanleigh, sent them some pictures, and we'll see what they say. But again, pretty sure this is just going to be a quick, simple fix. And the second little issue, and this was a really confusing one because I walked through one of these units in Elkhart at the dealer show, and it was actually the exact same interior floor plan. And one of the things that they showed me were these cable stops, again, that prevent cabinets from hitting things. Well, when I open this cabinet up, you see what's happening here? By the way, it is backlit, which is really cool. But when I opened this cabinet up, it hit. And then I looked at the little stopper up there and I noticed that I can probably open this cabinet all the way if the refrigerator wasn't here, which was definitely not the case with the unit that I saw in Elkhart. Let me open this one. And you can see this one's hitting as well. So my theory is they just put the wrong cable here, right? You can see how it just attaches with 2 Phillips head screws, or look like square drive screws, but little trim screws that hold them in place. They probably just need to send me the shorter version of this cable that's about that long. Looks to be maybe 1.5 inches shorter than this one, and it will work perfectly. But you know, I don't even know if they need to put a cabinet here, honestly. I mean, if they put the cabinet doors here, but then right here they just made it a really nice trimmed out open shelf, I think that would look really nice, and it would be a little bit easier to access, you know, without having to worry about your fridge possibly making contact with it, and you could just do away with these completely. I think trimming this out really nicely, making a nice pocket in here, put a power jack in here, would be really nice. And again, it would be another area for a coffee maker. But yep, that's the second little issue. And again, this is a super minor issue because a lot of RV manufacturers wouldn't even put a cable stop here to prevent the cabinet from hitting. In the case of this unit, they put it here. If the trim wasn't on this door, it still would make contact. So a lot of people might think, well, is it because they put this wood trim on the front of the refrigerator? And that's not the case. It's just they put the wrong length cables right here. Again, very, very minor. That's a super easy one to fix, and it affects all of them. I thought at first, well, maybe the refrigerator had come out, but then after talking to them and seeing that this is the right amount of spacing for the refrigerator to be coming out, that it definitely isn't the case with this one. The refrigerator is set in the right position. It's just the length of those. And in the process of showing you this right now in the video, I actually cut my thumb on the edge of this. That's kind of sharp. I would recommend they sand that down or bevel it in or do something just to kind of protect that edge, because in the process of cleaning it or moving around, you could potentially cut yourself on that edge right there. So it's definitely an area I would recommend they just wrap it around a little bit and perhaps avoid the chance of somebody getting cut. Something else we noticed when it was delivered, one of these had actually come off. These are, I think they're actually glass. I don't think they're plastic, but this had unscrewed and it was laying on the floor. It might actually be glass. It didn't break. Yeah, it might be plastic. I'm not sure what it is. Actually, it looks like it's plastic. But it was laying on the floor. Simply had to take it and just screw it back into place. Okay, so you guys have heard me mention this panel before, and I like it. I mean, I think this is really cool. It's very techy. You know, for someone like me who likes panels and cool things with touch screens, it is really nice. But at the same time, I've mentioned in previous videos that I kind of prefer up and down buttons because it's a lot easier to memorize where they are and understand how to use them, especially if you need to get to them quickly. But I have my wife here now with me, and she has some comments to make on this panel as well as the panels that are positioned around the RV.
Yeah, so it is really cool how it has all the techie stuff, like my husband was saying. It's just a little bit busy, and then of course when you're looking at it, you have to kind of think about it first, or you have to maybe read a manual. But it really is awesome how it has everything in here. It's just a little bit busy, so it'll just take a little bit of time just to learn it. Yeah,
like in our old unit, if you wanted to turn something on, you could go straight to the switch and just click it on, right? Yes. In this one, you have to kind of, if it's on the slide mode, you have to look at the icons down here, find the right icon to get to it. And that's the same critique that I've said about a lot of these new smart systems. You have to go through menus to get to items that normally would just be really accessible. The thing is, this is a really high-end unit, and you kind of expect this type of technology with it. Just like when you buy the new Ram truck with the 12-inch screen, you expect it, but then once you get it, you realize it might have added a little bit more complexity or even a little bit more time to being able to control basic functions.
Yeah. And the icons are pretty easy to read, but you just have to take a moment or so just to kind of look at them. But they are pretty easy to read. You've got your lights, your climate control, and that's your slide. Mm-hmm. I guess that's your fan. I don't know what this is. Your fans. And then these are, I guess, settings. But it just takes a second or two. Otherwise, it's great. I like it. It just takes a little bit of thought before you go pushing buttons. Otherwise, you might close the slide or open the slide on accident. Yep, and somebody asked in a previous video, can you retract and extend all the slides together, or can you do them individually? Well, this breaks them down into 3 zones, essentially. The bedroom, the galley, which is going to be your kitchen area here, and when you retract or extend, it's going to generally do one at a time, but then it will automatically start pulling the other slide in. That's just the nature of hydraulics. And then the living room slide is the same way, since there's 2 opposing slides. Not very difficult to use, but again, you do have to go through just menus. Think about it first. Yep. Let's go to one of the side panels and take a look. So here is one of the, I'll call it a slave control. Basically, you have buttons to control different things. You know, they're a little bit
hard to understand what CS sofa or RS sofa means. I mean, I could probably figure it out, and if you press the button, you'll see that it actually controls the lights above the sofas. And then living room are your living room lights up top, and then accent lights are your LED trim lights, right? But you know, the challenge with this is these lights go out and you can't really tell what they are until you press a button to turn the lights on. So if it's dark in here, you might kind of be fumbling around a little bit. What would be cool is if you touched the bezel and the lights came on before you have to physically touch a button, or perhaps if there was a switch on the master control panel or button that kept the lights on all the time.
Or right? Just a very low light backlit, just very low.
Oh yeah, just backlight them really softly. Okay, so now we've moved to the master bedroom, and this isn't necessarily a gripe that most people are going to have. This is going to be limited to a smaller number of folks who require use of a Cpap machine. And one of the comments people made when I did the first interior tour was, where do you put a Cpap machine? What was interesting was I had a call with one of the executives over at Vanleigh after that video and after they were able to see it. And they actually said, no, we have a Cpap Mount. It's a really cool custom bracket. It looks beautiful. It's specifically designed for folks who have a Cpap. So if you don't have a Cpap and you don't need it, well, then you don't need it. So you don't have to have that thing taking up space. But if you do have a Cpap, they have a custom bracket. And they're actually going to send me one so I can show you all what it looks like. And it's designed, again, to hold a Cpap. Typically, you can get it put on at a service center or a dealership. They carry them in the aftermarket. But again, if you don't need a Cpap, then why have the bulk of it here? But if you do need one, it's good to know that they've already thought about it and they have an option for it. So whenever that comes in, I'm going to make a video kind of showing you where that goes and how it might accommodate a Cpap machine. And then moving over here to the laundry station, so you have your washer and dryer, and a lot of people said the doors are backwards. But the doors come in the configuration that they're mounted on by Splendid, and when you open the door you can see that you don't really have the option to move them. These brackets are where they're at. They don't put them on this side. Splendid is kind of known by the RV industry as the go-to brand for washer and dryers, and you know, that's a good thing for them if they made these reversible, but this is not a reversible system, and unfortunately that's the reason why you see the doors in the configuration that they're in, because they don't put a mounting bracket on the opposite side so you can swap the doors over. I guess the way to fix that would be to somehow reverse the closet, but as you can see right here, that slide is pushed up that way a little bit more, and these stick out quite a bit more, so there wouldn't be really any practical way to do that. But just something to think about. That's the reason why the doors are positioned the way they are. Not something Vanleigh can control. That's something that Splendid would have to change. And they have a bag up front in the storage compartment with all your instruction manuals, user guides, remotes for the TVs, all that stuff, and including the key for your outside TV, which I found on the bag. But they also give you touch-up paint in all the colors that you might need in a little measuring cup. So that is really cool. Again, they've thought of a lot, and this is just really good, you know, customer service in the sense of understanding the things you might need down the road if, you know, you scratch up against a tree limb, or, you know, somebody opens up a door into you. Things that you might need to just get you set up and going again. And then finally, the fireplace. Now, this is no fault to them, but it just kind of shows you things that can happen. This fireplace cover simply lifts up like that, and it comes off. And it was laying on the floor whenever we got into the unit for the first time. So actually it wasn't laying on the floor, it was leaning up against the slide trim there because the slides were in. But you can see it has little hooks here that hook onto this part. Super easy to put back in place. Slides back in place and it's there. But that is something to just keep an eye on, right? When you're traveling, you want to make sure that, you know, something like this, which is actually manufactured by Furrion, you know, stays put. And what might actually prevent that from happening is if they put a piece of trim maybe across the top of this, has a couple screws in it, would solve that problem completely. Overall, the technology in this fifth wheel is really amazing. They put a lot of really great perks that you would generally only see in a Class A diesel pusher, and generally a high-end Class A diesel pusher. Absolutely love this padded ceiling. That's very cool, very high-end. Makes you feel like you're really getting what you pay for in a unit like this. But at the same time, as you step up, you generally get into technology that sometimes the technology might be a little bit more cumbersome if you're not used to it, and you have to adapt to it. And quite frankly, it will add time to turning lights on, to adjusting things, because, you know, when you're used to switches, a switch is an instant thing. You press, it's on or off. Some of this stuff you might have to fumble around with for a little bit. Anyways, guys, I sure hope you enjoyed this video. Not trying to nitpick, but I do want to be honest and show you guys the various little things that we've come across so far that could be challenging for some folks. Guys, if you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up. We'll talk to you again very soon.